Hello and welcome to Wild Soul Gatherings. I'm Dr. Sandra Marie and I'll be your host for Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. I'm very grateful for all you wild souls out there who've decided to join us today. I want to send a special thanks to each of you for taking time out of your day to join us and our guests as we talk about the many aspects of spirituality. To receive updates on our latest episodes, please subscribe and follow Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. A positive rating and comment is always appreciated. In the tradition of Happy Hour, cheers to some new insights, peace, revitalization, perhaps an aha moment that will positively influence your life. Well, welcome to Wild Soul Gathering. I am Dr. Sandra Marie, and I'll be your host for this episode of Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. Today, my guest is Julie Baldino. She's a real estate brokerage owner and a certified crystal practitioner in the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to the show, Julie. I had to practice the word Pacific a few times. It doesn't want to roll off my tongue really easy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, excited. You're really immersed yourself in the world of crystals and really have become a bit of a go-to person on the subject. When did you really first recognize this connection?
I think it started kind of as a child. My family owned a house on the Oregon coast, and it was on a beach called Agate Beach. And so there were agates everywhere. So as a kid, I would kind of go collect them, and then my collection grew and my education grew, and I ended up buying an amethyst probably 20 or so years ago, a great big one. It was my first big crystal purchase to help me quit drinking alcohol because I really had a problem with alcohol. Then the floodgates opened. Then my next piece was Moldavite, and the spiritual awakening began. So
Moldavite's an intense stone from my perception.
Yeah, I wear it every day. I actually even sleep in it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have definitely an affinity for the crystals. To me, I've mentioned this before. They're very like living. I see them as people, different humans that I have different connections with, and the relationship with each of them is very different. And I did not get to meet Moldavite until a few years after I started immersing myself in the crystals. And it's definitely a special one.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that was it just intuitive with you that you started using it for yourself personally, holistically, to address the alcohol? And I think that you had some other issues that were multifaceted that you were dealing with, or did someone... How did that come about for you?
Yeah, it was intuitive. I also had a really good friend who is an energy healer that worked on me often, and she recommended them as tools. I was working a lot. I had little kids. I was drinking to calm my brain down, and in working with her and discovering these tools, I just wanted to have a more peaceful life. And then the holistic healing journey began.
Did you have another one besides the amethyst? I love you have the big amethyst right behind you. It's sort of blocked out, but yeah. I can feel it. And I noticed it was like it caught my attention immediately for sure. Did you notice other stones that you were using on that journey that it had helped, or were you sort of just focusing on the one before you expanded out?
I immediately started expanding out. And then, because I was a real estate broker, I realized how powerful they were. And I started kind of studying how to use them in the home. And that morphed into how to use them in my clients' homes to improve the energy, to improve their abundance, to improve their chances to sell. Then my collection really grew because I was using them for clients. So it mainly started to heal myself, then morphed into creating a very Zen environment for me to heal, recover from alcoholism, figure out how to calm my brain and avoid burnout again, and then expand it into clients' homes. And now I'm actually doing full on like body work on people, which I never in a million years thought I would do.
Life is interesting, the different paths it takes us. I would totally agree with that. So recently I did a show with Kate Troyer, known as Feng Shui Kate. And I think you did 4 different episodes with her that I started listening to. I know that you came up on our interview that we did. I was just really amazed at how you combined the work, what you're doing, and you both sort of had that common denominator with the real estate business and housing, and that, with doing that. I know for Kate, there was a lot of insights and ahas, and myself listening to it, there was a lot of different directions of how to do things. So initially you said a lot of this was intuitive, like it started coming with you and you went with the flow of it. Was one of the things that Kate talks about is you can read about the properties of a stone, or, you can look at the Bagway map. I'm learning all these new things. And you can become systematic or almost scientific about it, right? So we have this scientific, spiritual pull that we have, which really should be a blend, and using the intuitive part. So when you're using it in your business for staging and different things, are you more intuitive, or do you sort of look at the different properties and mix it up a little bit?
I would say, I love this question. I would say a good combination of both. And because I'm kind of a science geek, I'm kind of a history geek. And so when I'm working with something, I want to know what it was used for 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. I also want to know where it came from in the earth. That's really important to me, like what region it came from. And then when I was doing my training, one of the exercises that we had to do on a daily basis, and that I continue to do, is meditate with a stone that we didn't know the properties of for 3 days and journal about it. And that was so insightful because it gave me an idea of what kind of energy I felt from that. And then I would go back and look it up. When I do get a new one and I don't know what it is, because there are 4,000-5,000 different minerals, it's impossible for any of us to know what all the properties are. Plus, there's a ton of weird misinformation out there. Like you can go anywhere and, people will list every property for one stone. It drives me and Kate nuts. We talked about it on our live streams. But that gave me a good sense of what I was feeling from it. And then I would go back and look it up. And oftentimes it did match. So I can see where that information was channeled to begin with. That was a long answer, but I would say it's 50-50. I like to look at historical use. There's a couple of crystal healers that I follow, and I will read metaphysical properties from them. I don't usually go to the internet or anything to look at that. I mean, I've got my books right next, my reference books that I go to right next to me.
I love it. I love that you left your mind open to the intuitiveness before you went to the information part of it.
Yeah.
Instead of sort of having a preset sense when you went in. So I know that you have multiple certifications to practice intensive crystal work, and that you do use it in homes and bodies, in the body work that you shared. Can you tell me about some of those certifications and like where did you find them and how do people go about to get them?
So one of the certifications that I have, I would say the most important one is a CCP. And unfortunately, people ask me all the time who I'd recommend. I would recommend that one, but she is no longer teaching. And the reason that I loved her courses is she comes to it from a physics standpoint and a geology standpoint. So you not only learn about how to do the body work and how to do energy healing, but you're actually learning, the information about the actual stones, where they came from, their history, what their molecular structure is. That was really interesting to me to take that, and it gave you kind of a multifaceted education. And then I'm involved because of that in some kind of side groups that are Facebook groups that are all crystal healers that are very collaborative, and we learn from each other. And then, books. I'm a total book nerd, so I read books all the time.
Oh, I love it. Actually, I do actually have a number of books on crystals. I haven't put the time in that it deserves to learn them. One of the things that I used a lot at one point was I had a deck of crystal cards, and it had a book that came with it. It's sort of like any of the tarot, the angel cards, anything like that. You intuitively set your mindset and ask the question, put them out, and your energy sort of picks what you need. Part of the aspect of this was, because some crystals can be expensive, pricey, is they said the energy of the crystal would be in the card with the picture with it. Have you ever used anything like that or heard of anything like that?
I do. I believe I have a deck of crystal cards. And yeah, like with anything, I think that pulling that card is intuitive, and just planting the seed of, today you pulled an amethyst, so you need to find peace and relaxation. I think almost everything we do, when done with intention, moves the wheel, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely.
Whether you're holding the amethyst or holding a card with an amethyst. And I know there's a lot of crystal healers too that do distance healing. And so that would be the same concept, right? Like they're working on a proxy and sending that energy your way. I think it's sort of the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that, all the energy modalities can be done distance work, and that they're very powerful, and that there's meaningful outcomes that definitely come with it. Mm-hmm. And I'm always amazed, right? You pull the card, like you have this big thought or something that's on your mind, and you pull this card and you read it, and you're always like, yeah, of course. It always fits, right? Like totally. There's no making it up. I always find that amusing. Like I'm expecting to find something different. Yeah. But consistently, nothing's ever a surprise. I already knew the answer, even though I thought I didn't. It was just an affirmation, I guess. So I know that you have, you use TikTok a lot, and that you posted a healing session that really went viral on TikTok. So how awesome is that, right? How did that feel? And can you tell me a little bit about that healing session? I mean, that seemed like a pretty big moment.
Yeah, that was actually totally by accident. I honestly didn't think that was going to happen. And I mean, I'm 45 years old. I never thought that I would go viral on TikTok. So, and it was kind of a fluke, but not. If you've seen my TikTok, you've seen that I have that really fancy schmancy crystal light bed. Mm-hmm. And that actually came to me in a dream, that I needed to get that light bed, and that I needed to put a video of it on TikTok.
Okay, so that was divinely guided, huh?
So I just did. And that session, I had just gotten the bed, and I was practicing working with it and doing my healing sessions in it on my daughter. So that was actually my daughter in the bed. I'm a Virgo, so I have to be perfect at something before I'll do it to somebody else. So I'm like, we're doing multiple practice sessions, family, until I have these crystal healing sessions down inside this bed and my routine down. And yeah, that was my practice session on my daughter, went viral on TikTok. I think it's up to like 600,000 views or something.
And how lucky was your family to have to be practiced on?
I know they still get practice on, because I love to custom design layouts for specific ailments. I test them out on my family first before I'll put them on another human.
That's incredible, and that's awesome. So when I watched a number of your TikToks, I saw this breathtaking crystal bed, and I know when I initially you and I spoke, I shared that I also have a crystal bed, and a little bit of the story with that. But can you tell me a little bit more about this? I call it a healing piece of art. Like, yeah, I was like, so you described it in words before I saw it. And when I saw it, I was sort of like, oh, wow, that is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Those beds are made in Sedona, and it has multiple healing components to it, which is why I like them. And I've seen some kind of knockoffs online, that are just the lights, or that just have the light therapy. But this combines light therapy with crystal therapy and aromatherapy and sound therapy. The bed has a heated amethyst biomat on it, so that's what you're laying on. You've got noise canceling headphones, and those are channeling Palladian frequencies while you're laying there. And then it has an aromatherapy component to it. And the most special thing I think about the bed is the bulbs over the LED lights. The bulbs are a very special cut of Himalayan quartz. So it's high altitude Himalayan quartz, and it's a Vogel cut. And Marcel Vogel was an IBM scientist that figured out that if he cut the crystal at 51.8 degrees on all sides, that it maximized the rotation or the spin of the energy. That's how these are cut. And there's really only about a dozen master carvers on the planet that can cut these special Vogel crystals.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
In fact, I wear 2 of them every day around my neck with my moldavite.
Yeah, a lot of power going there around your neck.
Yeah, I do.
That's a beautiful thing. And I love how you refer to crystals as nature's powerhouses to heal the mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
I'm very excited that holistic medicine has become a little bit more mainstream, I think, perhaps over the last decade or so. But it's really taking a lot of leaps and bounds over what initially holistic medicine looked like, the nutrition and diet, and it's taking it to a whole new level. You piqued my interest with, you said you had Palladian sounds with the crystal bed. Like, this thing sounds like it's multifaceted, multi-dimensional modalities, like all coming at once. Like, when you were talking, all I could feel was like pure happiness and joy being immersed into my body. Can you tell me more about the Palladian sounds?
Yeah, so it's similar to binaural beats. So but in its music, it's very pleasant to listen to. I think I have like 20 or 25 tracks on there, and it helps kind of light up and connect the right and left side of the brain. When you say the word immersed, you are fully immersed. And not only that, you are completely sensory deprived because your eyes are covered. All you can hear is the music. You've got this warm amethyst on your back. You're covered up in a warm blanket. It's like the ultimate in relaxation. And it's interesting because everybody has such a different experience. Some people get up from the bed and they say, oh my gosh, my brain just didn't stop ping-ponging the whole entire time. And I stay in the room with them. And most of the people that say that, I can hear them snoring. They're asleep. And they don't even know they're asleep. People will come out and say, was I in there for only like 10 minutes, but they had been in there for 50 minutes. I've had people see visions of past lives. I've had people see their spirit guides. I've had one person see God. I mean, it's an intense experience.
That would be honestly some fascinating anecdotal research to collect and put together. Is sort of where I went with that. That's the doctor part of me.
Yeah.
That is just wow. And we're just in the beginnings of it. I mean, obviously it's all there. It's always been available, but that we're starting to recognize it and embrace it and become one with it. I'm so excited that it's starting to get out there, and I think eventually will become more mainstream. You know, I remember back in the days, and I'll say in the 90s, and I have people in my life who were looking at this stuff in the 80s, just with basic Reiki. I had the same experience you did with the TikTok with, you need to learn Reiki. And it's like, okay, never heard the word, didn't know what it was. When you Googled it, really nothing came up because there wasn't a lot of information. It's like, now we talk about these things, people don't look at you as much as if you have 3 heads. Like it's becoming, for me, more mainstream and accepted, and definitely people are more interested. So that's a lot of, to be honest with you, what Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious is about. Is I think that people personally, my own perception, are awakening by leaps and bounds. And awakening means a lot of different things. For me, it's, they're talking about the great resignations and people just randomly quitting jobs, making big moves. I perceive that to be people are having their own very unique awakenings. I don't put it so much in the social societal part of it. I think that it's a lot bigger than that. And it's really to have conversations with folks like you who have been immersed in this and have really committed yourself to it for a while so that you're more knowledgeable on it and you speak it in a way that's easy for anyone to understand. You're proof yourself. You're willing to share your personal story, to show the effect and the difference. And just even when you talk about your clients, you're you're very forthcoming that it looks different for every person. People get attached to, I think, what it should look like or what I'm doing, or is this safe, or is this woo-woo, witchcraft, whatever. It's really to expose people to it. It's very mainstream. It's regular Joes like you're a real estate person, I'm a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
We live our lives doing this kind of stuff. It's your neighbors, it's everyday people that are doing it. I am super grateful for you to be patient to get us going with our audio and be on the show and really be open about talking about it. So I know that you have a little bit of a client, a side business that you do. It sounds a little bit more like, you're into your day job more, because that's how the world has you right now. Do you have any projects or anything that you have up and coming that you're thinking about? I know you do a lot of live streams and that you're out on social media doing that part, both as a learner and a grower as much as sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never thought I would be a teacher. Like, I don't consider myself a teacher at all, but I have a lot of people asking me because of the live streams and the videos if I'll ever teach a course on crystal healing. So I'm kind of kicking that around in my brain, because again, my teacher and mentor is no longer teaching, and that's the only one I'd recommend. So people are saying, who would you recommend? And there honestly isn't one. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to create that. And then I've also thought about doing a book on customized layouts on the body that you can do on yourself, because that's really kind of something that I've enjoyed rabbit holing in and figuring out, because I've created some for people who are suffering from PTSD, ADHD symptoms, autism symptoms. And then I'm working on some right now for people who are transitioning from male to female or female to male to help call in more masculine or feminine energy. I thought that would be a fun project to put I have it all written down, and I'm looking at my notebook going, oh my gosh, I almost have a full book here of layouts that I've created. So
I personally think that would be great. So as I was watching your TikTok, I would say I have a few crystals. I recently have been doing some moving and realized that I actually have foot lockers full of crystals. Like, I have collected a lot of crystals and I'm very excited. I bought this farm and I'm looking to build a retreat, and it's its own huge project. But, I have the massage table and I put people on it, and just like you, the kids, the grandkids, I put them on and do the stones. I do these different layouts. I like to practice on myself a lot and how it feels, but it's different for different people. So when I was watching your TikToks, I was like, what you doing with that one? And that looks like and I think that there's more people than me that are interested in that. And it would be fun to do. And it makes such a difference. It's very simple when you know what you're doing, but it's not in some ways also. So I applaud you for all the work you're doing, and that you're engaging different populations that are really looking for different modalities and treatments, and you're providing that. So kudos to you for that, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like when the question is asked of me, like, I want to do this on other people, I feel like that's a big responsibility. And there's a lot of education and research for me that went into this before I started just putting stones on people's bodies. Mm-hmm. And like, there are some stones that are good for, say, cellular growth, that would be good for somebody recovering from surgery. But if you put those on, the stomach of somebody with cancer in their liver, that's a problem. So there is some ethical things there too that I think are really important that most people don't think of, that do require, some type of education or certification. So yeah, I would love for more of that to be out there. But again, I never really considered myself a teacher. So I'm just kind of floating that idea around in my head right now.
More to come, right?
Yeah.
So if you step away from the crystal part of it and the other energetic modalities, do you have teachers or books you read, people you follow? You sound like you're into the science of it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I would say probably, and people have asked me this on TikTok too, what are your go-to books? So my number one go-to book is The Book of Stones by Robert Simmons. And because co-wrote it with Naisha Asian, and she's a crystal healer. I like his scientific part of it, and I like her application of the properties of the stone. So that's definitely my go-to if I want to learn more. And I normally tell people, if you can't read that book and memorize the stuff in that book, this probably isn't the modality for you, because we have to keep that in our brains. I have a weird photographic memory where I can just remember random stuff. I mean, it served me well in this, but so that's one of my go-tos. I'm looking at my bookshelf here. Vibrational Medicine is a very, very good book that talks just about basic energetics. I think it's super important for all healers to have a grasp on that before they're working with any modality. I also work with a lot of essential oils. I work with a lot of herbs. So I've got one of the books that I really loved on oils is a book called Sacred Oils. Philip Permute is a really good, reputable crystal healer that I follow. Nicholas Pearson is another a crystal healer who has authored several books that I really enjoy. Those would probably be my top recommendations for books.
Well, I appreciate it. I know that there are many of the listeners will appreciate that too, because I think people are hungry for it. Google is great, but not for many things. It is not the go-to. That's what we tend to do, right? You don't know anything. Most people first go to Google, and when you Google, because I have gone down that path myself, and I actually have some of the books that you have mentioned specifically for the exact same reason that you mentioned it with the science. That's why I was sort of giggling to myself when you said that. I think that they're hungry for this, so I'm really eager to have the information available and out there, as you are too.
Yeah,
so that's great.
I'd rather see people meditate with a stone and try to figure out what messages they're getting about the properties than go to Google. And another person to follow that I think is very, very knowledgeable and gives out a lot of free information on the properties of crystals. I don't always kind of resonate with them, but Sage Goddess is a crystal shop in Southern California. The owner, Athena Parakis, is super knowledgeable on stones, and she does live streams every day where she features her new products, and she talks all about the properties of the products. They're very, very informational. I would definitely follow them if you just want kind of easy, free education on just the properties. She's a good one to follow.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So do you have any last thoughts or things that you would like to share with the listeners?
My main focus right now, and we've talked about the medicine and the disease and, how our bodies get sick. And I feel like a lot of these healing modalities are geared towards just keeping up our energetic hygiene. That's what I call it, my energetic hygiene. It's what I work on daily to make sure that I've got movement in my body and I'm happy, healthy, thinking good thoughts, and healing. And I feel like crystals are just another tool to keep up your energetic hygiene that can be kind of used in your daily life. I mean, I still to this day meditate with stones. I don't know if you can see, but I've been holding this the whole time. This is on my lap because I wanted to make sure that information flowed freely out of me today and that I was speaking clearly and I was saying what spirit wanted me to say. I definitely feel like it's just a really easy way to pull intention into your life to have good daily energetic hygiene type habits.
Oh, I love it. I have sets of crystals also sitting on the dresser or whatever, as well as around the house. And to me, it's a wellness. It's not always, a lot of times we tend to look for things when we have a problem or something we're trying to fix versus just general life, right?
Yeah.
And, I'll laugh, I'll have something and I'll look at it and literally I'll be getting ready to walk out of the house. And it's like, I need you to come back and put this in your pocket and take me with you. Like, that's just how I feel with the communication with them. It's hard to language it, but it's pretty real. And, different ones want to stay home and different ones want to go on different days.
Yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things that I get often from people is I don't feel anything from them. And I'm not a big feeler either. Like, I don't pick something up and go, oh my God, whoa, I can feel that buzzing. That's not how I receive messages from them. And I always tell people it's okay to receive it audibly. It's okay to receive it by feeling it. Like, it's okay to not feel anything. Just incorporate it into your life and see how your life changes. That's all you need to do. You don't have to compare your experience with them to other people's.
Those are very important words. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Because I'll say initially people would talk about feeling, and that exactly, I'd be like, well, I don't really feel anything. So then I thought there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I've evolved since then. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. I really appreciate the information you've shared. I will include your information in our show notes. People can get a hold of you. And on that note, I'd really like to thank all of our listeners for taking time to listen, and most importantly, embrace your wild soul. Thanks a lot, Julie. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us for this episode of Wild Souls Gatherings Happy Hour for the Spiritually Curious. To find out more about our guests, how to contact them, or detail on this episode, please see our show notes. You can also visit us at our website, wildsoulsgathering.com. We would love to hear from our visitors what you thought of this show, what you would like to see and hear in the future, questions you may have. Go to podinbox.com/happy hour for the spiritually curious. You can leave either a voice or traditional message for us. This is your host, Dr. Sandra Marie, sending each of you peace and love. Until we meet again, embrace your wild soul.